It's Jack Gillis 1875 here, and I'm joined by a very special guest on the channel today, Hibernian women player Eilidh, who is also sponsored by the Hibernian Women Supporters Club. Thank you for joining me today, Eilidh.
Thank you for having me on.
No problem. So I've got a few questions for you today, nothing too taxing, just a little bit about you as a player and your career. So I'll jump right into it. What is it like being a young player during the COVID-19 pandemic? It must be quite difficult.
Yeah, no, I think it's been challenging for everyone, really, no matter your age, I guess. But yeah, it's definitely been hard in terms of trying to keep yourself motivated to stay fit, because we've been sent out like running and stuff to do and trying to do your own extra training. But it was okay. I found it okay at the start, but try to like continue doing it because it went on for so long, and then obviously we got out and then we got put into another one, and the second one was definitely the toughest in terms of you'd already been through it, so trying to go through it again, it was definitely tough. So it's great to be back, and hopefully, we'll be out for good now. So yeah.
So obviously the stop-start must be quite difficult. You're playing games and you've got a long period without playing games. In terms of fitness, that must be quite difficult.
Yeah, definitely. That's, as I was saying, we were getting sent out a lot of running to do, so I felt I did keep on top of my fitness, and I felt quite fit going back into it. But yeah, it was definitely hard. Some days were harder than others in terms of motivation, but I managed to do it, and yeah, hopefully I won't have to do it again.
Yeah. So obviously, what is it like being as a young player playing alongside some big names within Scottish women's football and Hibs like Siobhan Hunter and Joelle Murray? That must be quite a big thing, playing against players that have been in the game for so long and have so much experience.
Yeah, it's a massive privilege for me, as you say, being so young. But it's great for me in terms of I'm learning off of them every training session, every game. It's great for me, and it's only going to make me better playing with players that are older than me, more experienced than me. They know stuff that I don't know, that can improve my game. So it's really good for me at this point in my career in terms of my development. It's quite key, I guess. So yeah, as I say, every day I'm learning and taking something else in, and they've all been really good with me and helped me. And I'll be playing up against Shiv, and she'll want to give me advice, and that only makes her job harder in terms of she's the centre back and I'm the striker, so it only makes her job harder. But she's willing to do it, and they want the environment's so good for a young player, and they want you to improve, and they know also though that it can be quite challenging coming into that new environment in terms of you're the youngest by quite a bit, and they're older than you. I didn't feel intimidated, but they might think that it can feel like that. But no, it's really good, and I'm really enjoying it. So yeah.
Yeah, it's obviously good to have players like Joelle and Siobhan that have been through the same system as you and know what you're going through as a young player to give you advice and sort of take you under their wing and everything like that.
Yeah, that definitely helps. As you say, they know what I'm kind of going through or have been through. So yeah, that definitely helps in terms of they know maybe how I'm feeling, or they can relate a little bit more.
Yeah. So the next question is, obviously you're a Hibbie like myself, as you can tell by the shirt. Who is your favourite Hibs player of all time, and what is it like playing for the team you support?
That's a tough one. Is this men or women? Are we talking?
It can be both if you want.
Oh God, that's tough. I think, well, if we're talking current player, I think Kevin Nisbet's up there in terms of players that I can, striker, another striker. Doidge, he scores a lot of goals, which I guess is what, a number 9's got to do. So that's quite good to watch and stuff. But I'm not sure if I have a favourite. I haven't thought about it. But obviously, women's team, I'd say like Abigail Harrison and Lizzie Arnott and players like that stand out. But playing for the team you support, it's a massive privilege. You grow up, you want to play for the team you support, and so I always knew that I wanted to play for Hibs. It was kind of my goal when I was younger, and so it's a massive privilege. Every time I put on the shirt, it just kind of doesn't feel real. It kind of, obviously as well being young and doing it, it's just a massive honour, and I love it. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'd have to say my favourite player's got to be Derek Riordan, just all time. Then right now I'd probably say big Christian Doidge, because he tries. He's a trier. I like Doidge. So, and in terms of the women's team, probably Siobhan, because she's a Highbie through and through. I'll move on to talk a bit about women's football. What female players, women players do you look up to as your idols? Because obviously there's not just in Scotland, but so many great women's players around the world. So who do you sort of look up to in that respect?
Well, I think in terms of maybe some players that have kind of been through Hibs and stuff like Caroline Weir and Claire Emsley, who have gone on to achieve obviously massive things down south. That's very inspiring in terms of that's kind of the path I want to follow. So it's kind of I'm wanting to follow in their footsteps. So it's really good seeing that it's achievable, and it's hard. It takes hard work and all of that, but it's just, as you know, Caroline Weir, who's just, I think she's in with a chance for the GB squad, and she's one of Scotland's best players, and so seeing that, it's really inspiring. So I'd say and they've come through Hibs, so I'd probably say they're quite key role models in terms of the path that I want to follow, and they've kind of been on the start of what I'm going through. So yeah.
So just something I'd like to add on to the back of that question is, obviously the Women's World Cup in France, that got really good coverage and that got really good attendances. Obviously Scotland were there. Scotland got a good following. How did that feel? Obviously you were a young player at the time when the World Cup happened. How did that feel watching that and knowing that the women's game's getting such good press? That must have been really good to see.
Yeah, I watched most of the games on TV, so it was I think it was a massive boost and a step, like it took the women's game that bit higher, and it's helped massively. And the coverage that it got, and the amount of fans that were in the stadiums, record capacity and stuff like that, I think it definitely helped. And it was just, again, so inspiring seeing players that have played for Hibs then in the World Cup in France playing against England and stuff like that. So I think, yeah, it was definitely a big helped the women's game a lot, as I said, and it's only going to go up again from there.
Definitely. I think I was a curse on every team that I liked in the Women's World Cup, because Scotland got knocked out, so they decided to start supporting Germany, and they got knocked out not long after. So I'm moving on. I'm going to ask you, who's your favourite teammate in the current squad right now?
Well, and I'd probably say Eilidh, just because I'm closest to her in terms of we are a very similar age, and we've been through youth national squads together and regional squads. So I'd say her in terms of the player I'm closest to and get along with very well, and we can kind of relate to each other in terms of the situation that we're in at the moment. So I'd probably say her for that reason.
Yeah, I think that's good, because obviously it's good going into the squad to have a player a similar age to you who's knowing what you're going through, knowing your feelings, and that you've been with before. Obviously it's a bit like when Riordan and Scott Brown and all that started out as young lads, and the men's team, they had your boys like Tam McManus with them who are a similar age. It must be good to have a player of a similar age that you can share your experiences with and everything like that.
Yeah, it definitely helps.
So this might be a wee bit of a difficult one, but it's one I always like to add in. What has been the best moment of your career so far?
I'd probably say there's a few, but making my Scotland debut under 15s down at St George's Park against Wales, and I came on and scored. So that's probably one of the biggest kind of moments so far. And then also the under 15 Scottish Cup final against Hearts, when I scored the winner to win that. And then also obviously making my debut for Hibs Ladies. They'd probably be the three biggest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's obviously a few good highlights there. And playing for Scotland, you must be so proud to put on the colours of your country, knowing that you're going behind so many great players at all levels. Not just in men's or women's football, but obviously at all levels of the game. It must be great. You're following in those sort of footsteps and pulling on the jersey of your country.
Yeah, again, it's a massive privilege, and you can't take it for granted, because you never know if it's going to be the last time. So you've just got to put everything into it. And playing alongside different players, it can be good. And obviously you're playing up against teams from around the world, and that's a different challenge, a different style of football, and it's all just great learning. But yeah, it's a massive privilege.
Yeah, so because you mentioned the national team, what is the favourite country you've played against in terms of the experience and the sort of players they had?
I played Germany at under 16s, and they were just, some of the players they had, their technical ability was just incredible. It was so hard to play against. And then we also played Italy at under 17s, and that was again really hard. And some of their players, it's just kind of, you don't realise players from, like, obviously you're competing against players within the country, and then you step outside of that and you see again maybe a step up again from that, and it's just a great to play against players, because as I said earlier, it's only going to make you a better player, and playing it, like stepping outside your comfort zone and playing against players that are maybe better than you. So yeah.
Yeah, well, because that Germany side you mentioned, a few of the players have made big moves up. I know certainly of Tabea Vasmuth. I don't know if she was maybe in the squad then, but she's sort of one of them younger players that's now playing for Hoffenheim and everything. Just a name that comes to mind for me. So obviously to come against that sort of level of opposition must be absolutely fantastic, because obviously it's a bit of variety from what you'd be playing in Scotland, like you mentioned.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'll move on and go on to, what's your favourite goal you've scored? Now I'm going to make this sort of a two-parter. What's your favourite goal you've scored in general, and then what's your favourite goal you've scored for Hibs?
Again, I touched on them, either the Scottish Cup final under 15s for Hibs, or my one in my Scotland debut. Probably those two again. And then I scored on my debut for Hibs women against Durham in the friendly. So again, that was it's quite a big turning point in terms of my career and stuff. So I'd probably say that one as well.
Yeah. So do you ever hope to represent Hibs at Champions League level if we ever get back to that point? Is that something that you'd hope to be around at the club to do in the future?
Yeah, definitely. I think it would be another amazing experience, and just playing like Champions League football, you just can't take it for granted. And I think it would just be another step up again, playing against teams from different countries and stuff. So I think it would be a brilliant experience. So I would love to be part of the club if we ever do get that chance again, which hopefully we do. Yeah, I would love to.
Because obviously a few of the players have been around a bit longer in the squad, like Siobhan and Joel, have obviously played against Bayern Munich and Slavia Prague. So that must be something that you're looking forward to. It can easily happen again.
Yeah, just even when you say it, like Bayern Munich, it's just, even if the scoreline doesn't go your way, it's just the experience and the even the learning you'll get off of those teams. It's just again another step up. So yeah.
Yeah, because it's coming up against players like Leah Schuler, and I think when we played Bayern, Vivian Miedema was still at Bayern back then as well. So coming up against those sorts of players, Vivian Miedema is obviously tearing up the women's Super League down in England now as well with Arsenal. Coming up against those sort of players, obviously, like you said, it can be a massive learning experience, obviously, as a young player. So, yeah, I'll now move on to this is going a bit further and expanding on that point. Where do you see your career in 5 years?
I'd probably say I want to by then sign a contract professionally, either down south or somewhere like Germany or something, but probably down south, I'd say. Yeah, that is the goal. So I'd probably say that. But just now it's just about establishing myself in the women's team, and getting a run of games without interruption and scoring goals. So yeah, but I'd probably say getting a professional contract down south.
I think it's a really good ambition to have. As well, I'd recommend, obviously this might be a bit biased, but I'd recommend the Frauen Bundesliga over the Super League, but that's just because I like German football more. But obviously, to expand on that point even further, do you hope to win silverware at Hibs at some point before you further your career? Would you hope to win a Scottish Cup, or maybe even the league, shoot for the stars? Would you maybe like to have a league winners medal or a Scottish Cup winners medal at senior level?
Yeah, definitely, because as I said, I won the under 15 Scottish Cup, and that day was amazing. That feeling was amazing. So to be able to do that even higher at an even higher level, like with the women's squad, it would be amazing to do. So yeah, I would definitely love to get the opportunity to do so.
And how does it feel now that you've sort of come into the women's team at a time where Scottish women's football is becoming really sort of the standards improving, where we used to beat teams like Celtic 8 or 9-0, there being more of a challenge to us? Is that good as a player, or would you say it's a bit, well, disheartening is not the right word, but do you feel it's a bit not good to be coming into the team at a time where we're not exactly challenging as we used to, or is it good to see other teams competing?
Yeah, I guess it's not as good because you're not winning silverware and stuff, so that's a downside. But I think in terms of as a player and my actual game, if that makes sense, I think it is better that the league's more competitive. You're going into every game. There's no easy game now. Every single game's a tough game, and I think that's only a good thing for the league and for the game. So yeah, I'd probably say I'm in the game at a great time, and um, as I said earlier, it's only going to get better from now, and it's only going to improve in terms of money being invested. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, because obviously, like I was saying beforehand, Rangers and Celtic, those games used to be more or less training exercises for us. Finding the back of the net, we're winning 8 or 9-0, but it is quite good to see bigger clubs come within Scotland and be challenging us as well. So I'll move on to my next question, which is, you've come through the system at Hibs. Obviously, you've been through the system at Hibs. What valuable lessons have you learnt along the way, and what advice would you give to other young players at both male and female level coming through the academy system, obviously as somebody that's been a product of the academy system?
Yeah, I think just the main thing is kind of, well, working hard every training session, but also doing your own extra stuff if you've got the time, whether that be gym work or ball work or running, whatever it may be. Still balancing the load, but in terms of, I do quite a lot of extra stuff on top of what I do, and I know that that's kind of what it takes to be able to get to the top level if that's your ambition. So I think that in terms of players coming through, but also just enjoy it, because as maybe you start to get a bit older, there's maybe slightly more pressure. Obviously it's still enjoyable, but there's maybe slightly more pressure. So when you're younger, coming through the academy, just about also enjoying it and yeah, having fun, but still working hard every single training session and just learning every time you play. So yeah.
It's obviously fantastic. Obviously, we've got a great academy set up. I think it's brilliant the work that the academy does, and obviously, like you're saying, you've learnt some really valuable lessons coming through, and obviously you've had some great experiences in the academy. So, did you enjoy playing at academy level?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I was kind of always playing up a year group, so it really challenged me and brought me on. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed it, and I won some silverware along the way, which was really nice as a bonus as well. So yeah, as you say, there's a really good platform for young players coming through. In terms of the academy, so yeah, the opportunity is definitely there. It's just about taking it and working hard. So yeah.
So another one I've got for you, this is quite a tricky one, is the hardest opposition you've played against in terms of a club and then a player this season.
Do you know, I'd actually probably say on Sunday against Rangers, their two centre backs, Westrup and is it Swaby? Their two centre backs, I'd definitely say that was really tough in terms of the reading of the game, their experience, the physicality. I found it really tough, and their pace to get in behind. And as I said, they read the game really well, so it's hard to get in behind. So I'd definitely say that probably them was definitely a really big test on Sunday. So.
Yeah, that Rangers side, I think they are quite, as much as I don't really like admitting it, they are quite a good side, Rangers, this season. And touching on the game on Sunday, we were unlucky, I think, not to come away with anything, because I feel we played quite well. Do you feel it's tough coming up against teams like Glasgow City? Obviously they're the reigning league champions. Did you feel the game against them was quite tough, or did you feel that was an all right game?
Yeah, I think, every game's kind of tough, but they've brought in new players since, so I think Wednesday night it'll be tough, and it'll be new because, as I say they've brought in new players, so again it'll be maybe even tougher because I think they've got a really good squad as well. But yeah, Rangers have got a good side, but I think we were unlucky not to, because at the end of the day we stopped them from creating many chances. I don't think they had that many chances, so it was frustrating to give away the goal in the way we did. But yeah, I think again Wednesday will be a tough game, but we're ready for it, and taking a bit of the positives out of the game on Sunday and the confidence that we can compete, against the top teams.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to hear. That's a bit of confidence. Because obviously Glasgow do have some great players in their side, like the likes of Leanne Crichton and everything like that. That obviously she's been around for ages in Scottish football. So obviously, how does it feel? I'm going to touch back on your Hibs and the players you play with. how does it feel to have such a great sort of attack? You know, you've got players like Collette that you know, are getting up the wing and everything like that, and you've got a good midfield behind you. Is that good to have that as a striker, that you've got players that are feeding the balls into the box, you've got the midfield that are getting things forward and everything like that. You've got quite a good sturdy defence with the likes of Joelle and Siobhan up the back of the park as well. Is that good for you as a striker?
Yeah, definitely, because as a striker, you need the service in terms of that's kind of the only way you're going to score goals. So, yeah, definitely the likes of Smalley and stuff, her awareness and ability to play the ball, penetrating passes and stuff. So, yeah, and Cav, as you say, she's got pace and she can take people on. So yeah, it's definitely important to have, you know, players in behind that are able to do that, but we definitely do. And obviously the likes of Shannon McGregor, obviously she's out injured just now, but she's a really key player as well in terms of our midfield. So it'll be good to have her back, obviously with the injuries. So yeah, hopefully she'll be back next season.
So what, as a player and a particular striker, what areas would you like to see the club bring in a bit more reinforcements for next season that you think would help you as a player? If you could pick any area of the park to maybe, you know, get a bit, you know, a bit more depth and a few more reinforcements, who would you bring in? And well, not maybe who, but what area would you want to bring those sorts of players in?
I'd probably say the midfield in terms of just having maybe a bit more depth in terms of the ability to bring more people off the bench. Because right now we're quite limited when we've got people injured. You know, there's not maybe as much, but I'd probably say there. I don't want to say striker because then I'm less likely to get game time, but yeah, maybe there as well. But I'd probably say the midfield. Not that there's anything like wrong with what we've got just now, but just having maybe slightly more depth in terms of being able to bring people off the bench as well, so that we've got more players available. Because right now, obviously, we've got quite small squads because of the injuries and stuff. So yeah.
So obviously, because having a good midfield is the part of any team, because it strikes the balance between the defence and the attack. Midfield get things going. Obviously, you look at the men's side, you've got boys like Jackson Irvin and that get the play going. It would be great and you obviously have got the options like Halberg and everything on the bench. It'd be great for Dean to have those sorts of options like Jack Ross has, that he can, you know, get midfielders in. So yeah, I definitely think I agree with you there. Midfield is certainly an area I'd like to see. We've got a strong midfield, but certainly an area I'd like to see be strengthened further, so that we have good backup. So I'll move on to our final question for today, which is, you're sponsored by the Hibernian Women's Supporters Club, which I'm a part of, who have been cheering you on this season. We've been monitoring your progress as a player. We're all really, really proud of how you've been getting on. How does it feel to have the backing of such a great set of organised supporters?
Yeah, it's amazing. Just having that extra support there, and they've been amazing. You've been amazing so far, and I just getting like messages and stuff of that extra support is really good, and I really appreciate it. That you're obviously sponsoring me. And yeah, as you say, such a good organised club that are so women's sports club that are so aware of what's like going on and kind of know everything and stuff. It's really good. Obviously me being sponsored by you, but also the whole team as well. We all really appreciate it. So yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, so because it's great to see, because I think certainly from my own experiences, the women's game here in Scotland doesn't quite get the recognition it deserves, in my opinion. You know, I definitely think Hibs themselves, Rangers, Celtic could definitely be doing a lot more to promote women's football, because they have the fan base. Certainly from my experience of watching it in Germany, I sort of back Wolfsburg's women's team and Turbine Potsdam, and Wolfsburg are a massive side in the Bundesliga. They've been doing a lot to promote women's football, and Turbine Potsdam are an independent women's club anyway, but they get a lot of fans. You know, they've got a 25,000 capacity stadium, Turbine Potsdam, and they get, you know, about 6,000 a game. So hopefully it does get to that level at Scotland. So one last thing I'll ask you before I'll be signing off for today is, do you hope to get that the women's team at some point can get a few more games at Easter Road outside the Champions League? Would you like to play at Easter? Oh, that's a bit of a silly question. Obviously, you're a Hibby, you want to step onto the Harwood turf, obviously, but would you like to play at Easter Road at some point in your career with Hibs?
Yeah, definitely. That would be, you know, a very, very special moment in terms of obviously being a Hibs supporter, playing on that pitch. I go and watch the games when obviously we were allowed go and watch the games every week, and it's just, yeah, that would be, even even having some fans there, it would just be a surreal experience, I think. And obviously we play at Ainsley Park where, you've got one stand, but having 4 stands, I think, as I say, it would just be a surreal experience, but one that, I would definitely love to get the opportunity to do. So fingers crossed I do it at some point in the future.
Yeah. I hope we do get a few more games at Easter. Hopefully there'll be some Champions League for Easter, some Champions League nights. So I'd like to say a massive thank you to Eilidh, first of all, for taking her time out to speak to me today. It's been absolutely brilliant talking to you. I'd like to say thank you to everybody at Hibernian Women and the media team, Matthew and all the guys that run the media setup, because they're fantastic, helping me set all this up. Couldn't do it without them. And everybody at the Hibernian Women Supporters Club who support Eilidh, have been backing her financially and with emotional support throughout the season as well, and who've been helping me and giving me the inspiration to do these interviews and everything like that. So I'd like to say a massive thank you to them. So that's that, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. As always, it's great to see your support, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe for more content like this and other unique footballing content. I'll see you all in a while. Jack out.